Welcome to the Coaster Spot. This is Alex, and before we go into the video, I'd appreciate it if you could hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel, because if what this video is about happens, we will be there for every step of the construction until opening day. So, Rocky Mountain Construction and Hersheypark have been mentioned in a sentence together basically since April 22nd, 2011, aka the day that the first RMC New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas opened. I'll admit that I personally have always enjoyed Wildcat, some years less than others, but it was a revolutionary design for its time. The coaster ran trains from Philadelphia toboggan coasters for the first 11 seasons, so when people started creating their wish lists for wooden roller coasters to be transformed into a RMC masterpiece, it was unlikely that Wildcat would get the treatment. It had just gotten Millennium Flyer trains from Great Coasters International in 2007, but now, fast forward another 11 years, and it seems like it is possible that the transformation could finally happen, although not all the evidence seems to point to it, so let's talk about it. However, before we begin even talking about Wildcat, let's talk about other attractions at the park that seem to be past their prime, but are still operating to this day. In 2003, the 1974 Trailblazer received new trains from Premier Rides with an improved restraint and braking system. In 2012, the also revolutionary Schwarzkopf-built Super Duper Looper received its third set of trains, this time from Gerstlauer, and the control system and braking systems were updated. Over at the formerly named Sidewinder in 2011, it received a new train with once again an improved restraint system. The ride was further updated in 2017 with a magnetic braking system, and finally, this year, of course, it was transformed into the wonderful Jolly Rancher Remix. This included a new paint job, sound, light, and sense effects. In fact, we just got to experience this, and we made a video about it, so definitely check that video out to see how it went. Now, while I've just been talking about coasters, the park has done much more in the past for other attractions. The monorail track was modified when Hershey Foods no longer wanted the second station in their corporate headquarters parking lot. The park also bought parts from Six Flags Magic Mountain after they had closed theirs, and other countless flat rides have gotten new cars, such as the Scrambler. So my point is that the park obviously likes to preserve its attractions, whereas a lot of other parks in the same situation wouldn't find it remarkable to do so and have elected to remove their attractions instead. I'm looking at you, King's Dominion. However, let's talk about Reese's Extreme Cup Challenge. It was a terrible, interactive dark ride basically from day one, and once that new car smell wore out, ridership plummeted. However, I personally blame it that they stopped giving out free samples after each ride. But either way, at their 13th season, it was closed and envisioned into the Reese's Cup Fusion. In this case, a lot of the infrastructure was reused while improved to make a fantastic modern dark ride. Could this be done to Wildcat with RMC coming in, or perhaps something else? Great Coasters International, the designer and builder of Wildcat, now offers an all-steel track solution for wood coasters. This is what they call the Titan Track, and it was first tested on White Lightning down in Fun Spot Orlando back in 2020. Now, while a park could elect the entire track to be replaced, this year, two parks actually, Six Flags Darien Lake with Predator and Michigan's Adventure with Wolverine Wildcat, have elected to put on about 200 feet of track on each of those coasters. I actually just recently was able to try out Predator, and the section with that Titan Track is incredibly smooth compared to the rest of the ride. And I certainly wouldn't mind it if sections of Wildcat got this treatment. Be sure to check out that vlog from Six Flags Darien Lake coming very soon. But the thing is, with Wildcat, a lot of activity has been happening around the ride that isn't normal for the coaster, or any coaster for that matter. All which points to us believing that something is likely going to happen to Wildcat in the near future. So let's give a summary of the things that have taken place. At the start of the season, the coaster was running two trains, and shortly after, the second one was disassembled. This led many to think that this was being used for parts. However, this was easily debunked since Wildcat did run two trains for the first time for the entirety of the Christmas Candy Lane season this past winter. With that in mind, and the issues revolving around supply chains and the labor market, I think it can be only presumed that one train received its winter maintenance between January and April, and the park began on that second train as soon as they were ensured that the ride would be ready for opening day. But the second thing that has happened recently is that nearly every footer on Wildcat has received a blue paint mark. In the past, RMC has come in to begin work on a ride, and the first hints that a coaster would be transformed was a bunch of paint markers on footers or at the base of supports. However, usually it wasn't nearly the entire coaster. But please correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below, since I'm not 100% sure about that one. So what could these markers be, though? Well, the ride is now 26 years old, and these could just be markings that were done by maintenance after the ride was checked over, or they could be survey markers of some kind. This is obviously fueling the rumors the most, but however, could this be GCI coming in to begin to work on the ride? They could be brought in to retrack the entire ride with no changes to the ride other than making it a smooth ride again and lowering maintenance costs. Also, if you didn't know, Wildcat was the first project ever done by GCI. And while the park is going to do whatever makes sense from a guest and financial viewpoint, I'm sure GCI would love to be involved in whatever is being done to Wildcat. Hersheypark took a risk with GCI back in '96. Maybe they could be brought in to do the same thing again with GCI. GCI revealed a train design, the Infinity Flyer, all the way back in 2018, and while they have not sold one yet, these trains are totally capable of doing pretty much everything that the RMC train could do. So perhaps GCI could be coming in to completely redo the ride themselves in a similar fashion to what RMC does. The last thing that has recently happened was that the photo booth for the on-ride photos was demolished. This hasn't been used for many years. However, the photos are still taken. You just have to use the Hersheypark app or go to the front gate to get them. This just confuses me the most, since you would think that if they're planning on transforming this ride into a completely new ride, that they would be selling print copies of your photo, and it would be something they would want to keep around. Although it could be nothing, since stranger things have happened to rides around the amusement industry in the past. So those are the facts. And I'd love to hear what you think is going to happen. So tell me down in the comments down below what you think is going to happen to Wildcat, and if you think it's going to be next year or in the coming years. So I guess this is where I actually have to make my prediction. And I've thought long and hard about what I'm going to say. And while a lot of evidence might contradict what I'm about to say, I think it will be transformed. I think that Hersheypark knows that this is a ride that might not necessarily need to be in their lineup anymore. And with them improving their dark ride, I don't see why they wouldn't want to try to do that and save the infrastructure and make a new ride out of something that's old. So I'm still going to stick with a Rocky Mountain construction coaster conversion. However, I think it's also plausible that GCI comes in and does a similar conversion themselves. I think that would be really neat to see, actually. I think would be the more interesting thing to come out of this. But RMC most likely would be the better ride. Once again, put your comments down below what you think's going on. We'll keep you updated if there's any more changes, and if there are construction updates to be had, of course, we'll have them here. This has been Alex for the Coaster Spot. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you really soon.